Good morning, everyone. I hope that you're doing really, really well. As promised, I have not cheated, okay? I am going to be editing some photos or a photo today from Montana, and I have not given it any previous editing. I have not looked at it beforehand. I have not made a plan before this live stream. This is going to be a completely live edit so that you can see exactly how I go through the editing process. Shall we get started? All right. Well, I just want to say thank you so much for being here this morning. And hello to Tim and to Michael and TK and Leaf and Duneska and Roger and Johan. Everybody, I'm so glad that you're here. I don't know about you. I hope that your week has been good. Mine has been good. Except I will confess to a little bit of boredom. And what do I do when I'm bored? I have a couple of things that are my go-tos. One is that I like to walk and run, and I've been doing a lot of that this week. So hopefully that will combat all the stay-at-home sugary treats. Also, I love to learn, and just like editing these photos, it's an amazing time to learn. And reading books, watching your YouTube videos, looking at your images, you are incredible. Yeah, it's great. So my plan is to take advantage of this time, and when boredom sets in, use that as a cue to go and discover something new. All right, so shall we get started with the edit? All right, let me show you this is my Lightroom. I have already put just a few images together in my Lightroom. Hold on. And I want to edit one of these images. So I haven't decided which one yet. If you have a preference, please leave it in the chat. And then I can see, maybe we can edit one together that we all enjoy. So this is my Lightroom, and the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm in library mode, and I'm going to double click on the first image, and I want to get a better look at all of these. Now, there's a keyboard shortcut that I use all the time, and that is to make this center image even bigger is Shift Tab, okay? So Shift Tab, and then I'm gonna hit the L key twice. The first time I hit L, the lights go a little bit dimmer. And the second time that I hit L, they go all the way off, and that's just so that I can see the image without any distractions. So then I'm just going to use my left and right arrow keys to move through the images. And yeah, so this is first just a mountain. Like, it's a very simple picture. There's a cloud in the sky, the mountain, and a little bit of trees in the foreground. Next, I have this beautiful waterfall with a lot of trees and foliage on the outside, and it's kind of framing the image. I like that. And here's the same waterfall with a wide angle view, and you can see where I was standing, that little bit of rock on the right hand side. And then here is the another waterfall further down, and from a lower perspective. And oh, it was so beautiful there. Like, just absolutely, absolutely gorgeous. And yes, so this is to the side of the waterfall. I just kind of like the way there's clouds at the top of the mountains there, and that one tree kind of in the middle, slightly off off center. Next we have the boat. I do have an edited version of one of these images. It's not this one. It was a long exposure. This one is not a long exposure, but it's kind of like the incredible mountains in the background with the clouds. And I can see this one needs a bit of straightening, cropping, and lighting adjustment. So that's an option. And then, oh, the rocks here at Lake McDonald were incredible, like just incredible. They were red and pink and just colorful. So this is unedited and it's a raw file. So you can just imagine what the actual rocks look like. So that is a further back, much wider shot of the same boat. And then we just have a nice choppy lake in the morning with the mountains and the clouds. Oh, driving through the mountains in the back country where there's the trees that are bare are recovering from, the greenery is the recovering of the forest fire, and the trees that are bare are victims of the forest fire. And this is just one of the roads in the back country before it turned to dirt and potholes, and it had just rained. And another road just driving through the countryside. So this image is, I love this image, but I'm not going to choose this one because I do have a fully edited version of this. I took out the +290 and I really brought the clouds out. That was great. And then just, yeah, I have a bunch, just those burnt trees again on the side of a mountain. That was with my 70-300. Another walkthrough, and some of the trees in the valley. And that's it. All right, so if I hit L again, the lights come back up. Shift Tab again to come back to my Lightroom. And, or darkroom, as Tim says in the chat. All right, so any preferences? I don't see any chat here, so TK says he'd like to see the colored rocks edited. And yeah, that's awesome. All right. I love that. Let's see who else. Number 4 and number 6. David says, great location. Can't wait to go back. You didn't see any bears. I did not see any bears, thankfully. But, it was an amazing, amazing location. I definitely can't wait to go back. I don't know what it is. It's just the last month I have been dreaming of Montana. I definitely would move there if I could. All right. So, number 4 was the waterfall, and number 6 was the boat. So we have 2 kind of requests for a boat image. So let's go with that one. Okay, I'm going to edit this image, and depending on how quickly it goes, maybe we'll get another one. Okay, so whoops, get back on there. I am in library mode, and the first thing that I'm going to do now is switch over to develop mode. So up in the top right, I click on develop and I get started. So I have all my sliders on the right, and I am going to first, I can see here that the horizon is slightly curved. I was using a 16mm lens, at least I think I was at 16. I'm just going to check. Yes, 16mm lens. If you hit I while you're in Lightroom, you can see what settings you use to take the image. This was 0.7 seconds, f13, ISO 100, 16mm. So I am first going to go down to the enable profile corrections, because Lightroom should be able to fix, there you go. Now I have a straighter horizon, which is important in this image because it is so highlighted by that white, the light on the water there. So that is the first thing that I've done. Believe it or not, I'm going to leave straightening the image to when I get to Photoshop. I'm not going to do it in Lightroom. There's a couple of reasons for that, but I'm going to leave it for now. So the first thing I always do is I go back up to the top and I click the auto button just to see what Lightroom would suggest that I do to this image. So I click on auto and oh, well, it's all right. It's not bad. There are there are two ways. I either will not use auto and start from scratch, or sometimes I will take auto and I will just readjust some of the sliders. But for the sake of doing this, I'm going to hit Command Z, not have auto, and I'm going to work through it myself. All right, so, all right, what I want is at first I get an overall impression of what I want to do. And I can already tell that in the top part, I want the clouds to definitely have more definition. So it's a little bit overexposed in the sky, at least for my taste. And so I'm going to bring that down. I'm definitely going to straighten it in Photoshop. And then I also want these rocks, the color and the beauty of the foreground to be emphasized. So I'm going to start with highlights. I'm going to bring the highlights down, and that's going to bring detail back into the clouds and stop the whites from being blown out there. And in fact, I'm just going to bring it down all the way. And I'm going to leave the exposure where it is for now. The shadows, I could go down, I could go up. It's hard to say. The down helps with the background and the up helps with the rocks. And so for now, I'll just leave it the way that it is. The whites I'm not going to play with. The blacks, I don't know if I need to do that either. Maybe just, nope, I'm going to leave it the way it is. Okay, so this one, I'm going to try with the dehaze and see what that does. It definitely brings more definition to the background, to the clouds again, the mountains, and even just the boat there. You can see the difference if I play with the dehaze. Up, down. The one thing I don't love with the dehaze is see how that blue gets really, really saturated. So I can bring that down a little with the vibrance, just so it looks a little bit more natural again. Or I can leave the dehaze the way it was. So I'm just looking, I'm turning things on and off to test. So I'll leave the dehaze up at 13 and bring the vibrance down just a wee bit. No, I'm going to leave the vibrance up and I'm going to play with just the blue. I'm going to scroll down a bit here in my sliders and I'm going to go to this HSL color, and in saturation I'm going to bring the blues down just a wee bit. So -11. And I'm just going to keep going down here. And I don't think I need to remove chromatic aberration, but you never know, especially with the bright sky there. So I'm going to just click that on, and that's pretty much all I'm going to do in Lightroom. I actually only do the very basics in Lightroom, and then I move over to Photoshop. I love these sliders and I love the initial edits with Lightroom, and then I like to go over to Photoshop where I can do a much more custom job in terms of selective edits. So that's what I'm going to do now. We're going to head back over to Lightroom. We're going to edit in Photoshop, and then we're going to send it back. Okay, so down here on my film strip on the bottom, I'm just going to right click on this image and click on Edit in Adobe Photoshop. And I'll give it a second. It's going to pull up there. Hi, Robert. Charlene, hello. It's great to see you guys. All right, it is still opening in Photoshop. And yeah, if you have questions as you go along, I'm going to keep glancing at the chat, okay? Just so you know, I am watching the chat. Okay, so here we are in Photoshop, and we've got it opened up, the background here, and it's locked, and I'm going to leave that background the way that it is, and I'm going to click on Command J to duplicate the layer so that I am making non-destructive edits. Now the first thing I'm going to do is straighten that horizon because it's bugging me. So I'm going to go over to the left here on the crop tool. I'm going to click the crop tool, and then I'm going to go up to the top to the straighten tool. Okay, so you click this little guy here, and then you can just draw a line all the way across your horizon and let go, and boom, it straightens it automatically. So there, I have that part done. And you click the check mark if you're happy. It's a very wide angle lens, 16 millimeters, so it still does have a little bit of a look of roundness, and it also it will have that effect too, because on the sides the trees are a little bit, you can see in the reflections, the trees are on a little bit of an angle. The other thing that happens is that the pier on the left, it adds a little bit of weight to that side of the image, and so it kind of almost looks like it's not really straight yet. Even if it's technically straight, I'm not sure if artistically it's quite as straight as I want. So if I click the crop tool again, I could just go through and slightly alter what I've got. And it wants me to do it in 2 big increments. I could do it. No, you know what? I'm going to leave it. But I just want to say that sometimes it's okay to slightly move your move your horizon, even if it's not perfectly straight in terms of technical. It is straight in terms of what the eye sees. And so, yeah, if I were going to take more time and get really picky here, I might do that. Or I might straighten the lens, the corrections even more so that it doesn't look quite so distorted on the outside. But I like it the way it is, so I'm not going to. All right, so again, I want to play around with the clouds on the top and the colors on the bottom. To me, this image still looks a bit flat. So I've duplicated my layer, and I'm going to use Camera Raw. I love to use Camera Raw. You can use brightness and contrast in all of these layers here, adjustment layers. But for now, I'm going to use Camera Raw again. And the only reason I'm doing it in Camera Raw and not in Lightroom, because they are the same sliders. The reason I'm doing it here is so that I can mask it and only apply certain changes to certain areas. And I know you can do that in Lightroom as well, but what you can't do in Lightroom is those sliders for the colors, the HSL colors. You can't use those sliders in just one area. So I'm going to do that here. So Command Shift A or Filter, Camera Raw Filter will bring up my dialog box with Camera Raw Filter. So I'm going to go over to those color sliders now. So HSL adjustments, and I've got hue, saturation, or luminance. And the first thing I'm going to do is I want these reds to be lighter. So you can see it makes just a little bit of a difference. And the oranges to be lighter. And then maybe play with the saturation of them a bit, and the yellows. And I love that. So the magentas, not really there. Let's see if the yellows up helps a bit too. It does. All right, so I have played around with the luminance of red, orange, and yellow, and I'm going to click OK. And let's see the difference. Dark, light, dark, light. So that's that layer. If there were other reds, oranges, and yellows in the image, there aren't too many. There's some yellows back in the trees, but if there were other areas that I didn't want affected, I could now mask this layer. But I'm not going to do that because it looks fine the way it is. And the boat in the background is virtually unaffected. So that's fine. I've brought the foreground up a bit. I'm going to duplicate the layer again with either Command J or bring it down to this plus, and now I have another copy. I'm going to go back into my camera raw filter again, and I'm going to play with the, I'm going to bring the highlights down again in the clouds. And I really like that. That looks much better. Now you can actually see the clouds. And I wonder if dehaze. Again, I'm not really pleased with that blue. However, the rest of it looks okay. So I'm going to do these HSL adjustments again. I'm going to bring that blue back down. I don't mind it being blue because it does add to the image. But I can bring the luminance up and the saturation down so that it doesn't look quite so painted. And yeah, that's cool. Okay, now I wonder, I'm just curious if the greens, so not that, I meant the luminance of the greens. If I bring them up, the trees get a little bit brighter. And what I want to caution against, there's a lot of color in this image. I want to caution against making it look really edited. I'm actually going to bring that blue down just a wee bit more. All right, so I'm going to click OK. And wow, that's really brought the clouds back. Let's see, before and after. But I'm not sure if I want that applied through the whole image. So I'm going to add a layer mask. I'm going to click on the gradient tool over on the left. And sorry, I'll show you where that is. The gradient tool over on the left. And then I'm just going to drag this gradient over my mask. So if I hold the shift key, it keeps it straight. And now the mask is only applied to the top part of the image. So you can see before and after. Yeah. And I'm going to play around with different parts, different areas for the mask to be. So I'm not sure. This is a tough one. Maybe I'll just make it right along the horizon. I kind of like that because the reflection is not as dark as the sky, right? So that's before, that's after. Yeah, I'm going to leave that. Okay. I'm still not really happy with how these rocks are looking, so I'm going to make an adjustment layer. And I'm going to play around with the brightness and contrast. So I'm going to make a new brightness and contrast layer at the top. And I'm going to increase the brightness quite a bit. I know, look, it's going to the whole image. That's okay, because I can fix that. I can put the contrast up a bit. And I will, once again, I will use a gradient on this mask and use the shift key. And there you go. Now it's not being applied to the background. How far do I want it to go? I think even, I'll leave it like that, and then I'll paint in. So you can see on my little square here, the mask where it's being applied. So I'm actually gonna, oops. It's on a bit of an angle. I'm going to change the angle a little bit so that on the left hand side there, all right, let's see. I do a lot of playing around with this. Okay, and then I'm going to get my paintbrush, and I have white paint, opacity 100%, and my brush needs to be a lot bigger. I'm holding the right square bracket key to make it bigger. And then I'm going to paint in the areas that I want this brightness and contrast to be applied. So that looks pretty good. And then I can change it to black and actually remove the brightness and contrast from some spots. And I do a lot of Command Z, and if you're on a Windows, that'll be Control Z. I do a lot of undo, undo, undo. It's just a really quick way to see if to compare the before and after. So Command Z to undo, Command Shift Z to redo. And so it's really quick, and I've always got my hands there on the keyboard, and I always go back and forth as I'm making different adjustments. So I just looked at the chat, and my dad is here. Hi, Dad. Oh, that's so great. All right. Can you use any format in Camera Raw? And Eldon asks, that was Marsha, and Eldon asks, do I have to be working with a RAW file to do these particular Camera Raw edits? No, you don't. So you can open Adobe Camera Raw on any type of file that you have open in Photoshop. So yeah, as long as you have a file open in Photoshop, you can go to your filter, Camera Raw filter, and then use those sliders. A RAW file will have more information in it, so it'll allow you to make greater changes using the sliders before you clip your blacks or blow out your highlights. But you can definitely use these sliders in a JPEG image or a PNG, whatever you're working with in Photoshop. So they're really, really useful. And yeah, oh, so Marsha, sorry, that wasn't a question by Marsha, that was the answer. You can use any format in Camera Raw. So yeah, thanks, Marsha. All right, so I'll go back to this image. I'm almost done with it, but there are a couple things that I just want to test out. So, shall we? All right. I like the image, but I just want to see what I might, how I might make it pop a little more. So the brightness contrast, I'm pretty happy with it. And the layer one, the clouds, I'm pretty happy with that as well. I might change the opacity of the cloud layer to see if it's really, if I really want it to be that severe or if I want it to be less. And I think I like it, so I'm going to leave it at 100%. Now, layer one is without these two edits. It's different. I don't want it anymore. So I'm actually going to take these top three layers, and this is where, you know, some people would say no, and I can take more steps to make sure that it's completely non-destructive. But I'm happy with these two changes. So I'm going to take these three layers, the brightness contrast layer, layer one copy, and hold on. Let me just get you back here. All right, can you see me again? Sorry, my camera freezes after 30 minutes, and I should figure that out. I will. All right, so I'm going to take the three layers, brightness contrast layer, the layer one copy, which is the clouds, and layer one, and I'm going to merge them together. So I'm going to right click on them while they're all three highlighted, and I'm going to click on merge layers. And so now I have all of those edits in one. And then I'm going to copy this layer, so Command J, or drag it down to the new layer button. And I'm going to take that whole edited layer back to the Camera Raw filter. Now, see how there's two here, camera raw filter at the top and camera raw filter down below. If you want to do a new camera raw filter, just click on the one down below. The top one under filter is always just the last filter that you have applied. And if you click on it, it will just reapply those exact changes again without you having to open that filter. I don't want to do that here. I want to do something different. So camera raw filter or Command Shift A. And here we go. All right. So I've got it out here and I'd like to see what a vignette might do to my image. I'd also like to see what a contrast change might do to my image, and just changing the overall. Now that I have the picture balanced the way I like it with the clouds visible, the foreground brighter, I can play around with some of these sliders again. So contrast up, that's what that looks like. So down, apply that dehaze again. That would make the whole image a lot less hazy, which is really what that slider does. And it actually looks pretty good. But before I do that, I'm gonna go over to the vignette. And I love to play with vignettes. Why? I don't know. Mostly the dark vignettes, not the bright vignettes. So you can play around with like the midpoint of a vignette, the roundness of it, the feather. I like to feather them a lot so that it doesn't look like a vignette per se. And the highlights, what that actually does is lets the highlights show through on the outside of the vignette. So do I like it with a vignette? That's no vignette. That's a vignette. I kind of do. You know why? Because it brings more emphasis to the rocks in the foreground. But I'm not 100% sure, but I'm going to leave that because I kind of like it. And then I'm going to go back to the main sliders and see again about this dehaze. Maybe a little, but maybe even bringing up those highlights or whites. Maybe. All right. So, whoops. Sorry, guys. Click on OK with that camera raw filter. And now I can see before and after. And I'm going to mask it because I like it, but I'm a little curious about what it would look like if I didn't have the vignette over the mountains at the side here, because they look very dark now. So I just have on the black paintbrush, you can see here, paintbrush tool, and I'm going to make it a bit smaller. And as I paint over that in black, you can see it gets rid of that vignette in that spot. And undo so that I can see. I like it, except I think I'll just do it at 50%. So opacity up here is 50%, and that's a little better. I'm going to go over that like that. And I might even take out some of the vignette up the clouds at the top. Undo, redo, yeah, because it just, those clouds are incredible, but they can easily look like a blanket up top. So that's that. I think I like that. And now I've had you guys ask me before, how do I make the white border around my images for my YouTube videos? And I go to Image, Canvas Size, and then width, maybe 20 or 30. Let's go 30 because this is a big image. 30 pixels, and I have the relative box checked off. The background white, and I click OK. And what that does is it just extends the canvas around the image, and so now it has a white border. So that's it. All right. Now I want to compare the before and after, see if I actually do like what I've done. So I'm going to take this image and all I'm going to do is file and save. And what that's going to do is it's going to save all the layers. It's going to save it as a PSD file, and it's going to send it back to Lightroom for me. So now in Lightroom, in my folders with all of my organized images, I'm going to have a PSD and an ARW, which is the raw file for Sony. So I'm going to have a raw file unedited and a PSD with all my layers still edited in Lightroom. So I have all of the information that I need there. If I want to go back, if I want to make changes, I can export it then as a JPEG. I can work with it. When I'm using Premiere Pro and making my videos, I actually don't export to JPEG. I put a PSD file directly into my into Premiere Pro and into my videos. So it has saved now. Let's go back to Lightroom and see what we've got. So I'm back in Lightroom, and this is my edited image, and right beside it, hang on a second, there we go, is the original image. So edited and original. What do you think? Is it an improvement? I like it. And sometimes after I go back to Lightroom, or when I do export it, then I see some other changes. Like maybe I would actually make this whole image a little bit brighter. Like maybe I could do that. I can even just use the sliders again in Lightroom on that PSD file. And so now I've added a 0.05 exposure. So there's the before, unedited, raw file, edited, raw file. So Shift Tab, turn off the lights. There it is. So let me just check your chat here, see if there's any questions that you have. Yeah says, I like it with the vignette because it has more focus in the background and foreground. And I agree. I like it with the vignette too. Marcia says you can also place a stroke around your image and choose your color to make a basic frame. That's cool. I've never done it that way. And oh, thank you guys that you like it. I really appreciate that, Cindy and Debbie. And Anthony says from depressed to happy. That's awesome. That makes me happy. So let's go back here to me. Hello. And I hope that you guys are doing well. If you like me doing live edits, let me know. It's really easy for me to do. I have a million images that I like and have never edited just because I have a million images. Maybe I have 5 million images. And so if you'd like me to do more, or if you have specific questions about editing, please let me know. I am so happy to do that. Also, if you want one-on-one coaching help with your editing, I can help you to edit your images or to even edit your videos with my one-to-one coaching sessions. I'm still not raising the price. It's still on for half. We are all still stuck inside, and actually I'm just really enjoying meeting with you. So, so that's it. Thank you. Thank you so much, Stuneska, Marie, Tim, Dad, everybody. I'm so glad that you've joined me this morning, and Eldon, everybody. Oh, Old Carl says more, please. Thank you. Oh, that's so great. I'm so glad you liked it. And yeah, I'm happy to do that. And you know what? Ask me questions, because I have so much up here that I have learned over all of these years. I've been using Photoshop. Please don't tell anyone this. I've been using Photoshop for like 20 years, maybe more. And I'd be so happy to share it with you. That makes me really happy. And oh, I have a question here. Oh, so Charlene asks, if you wanted to adjust one of those layers, can you still send it back to Photoshop and adjust? So Charlene, yeah, so if you want to adjust any of the layers in the Photoshop file, I'm assuming that's what you mean, in the Photoshop edit, just reopen that Photoshop file and then when you make those changes, it should make those changes back into the Lightroom Photoshop file as well, because Lightroom is really just pointing to that Photoshop file. It's not like an extra file. Lightroom is it's just an organizer. Okay, so it's just pointing to that Photoshop file. If you want to make a change to any of the layers in that edit, absolutely, just go back. Let me even just show you. So hang on, whoops. All right, so just go back to Photoshop, like say you had closed this already, right? You can just go to open and just navigate your way to that, I can't remember where I have it now. Navigate your way to that file, reopen it, and then you have all your layers and you can re-edit. I have it here still, so I'll just show you. You can reopen it from the recent list. It'll read the Photoshop format. Hi, Maureen. Maureen is my mom. She's here too. Hi, Mom. All right, so now I've got it open again, Charlene, and all of my layers are here and I can completely just make changes. And if I push save again, then you'll see those changes update in Lightroom. So I hope that helps. I'm so glad that you guys like this. Are these chats going to continue after the world goes back to normal? Blair asks. Yes, absolutely. I started doing live streaming before the world went like sideways. And so, I mean, I would really miss you guys. I don't want to stop doing this. So you will have my regular vlogs and my live streams and premieres so that we can still chat. It's been great. We've actually made a community of friends and people who really enjoy talking to each other and supporting one another and just being really cool people together. So yeah, absolutely. And that's it. Okay, so I hate saying goodbye. So this is see you later, and I will talk to you soon, guys. I hope you have a fantastic Sunday. Email me if you want to say hello, and don't forget to continue to put your images into Hey Rachel Alerts Live. I'm still visiting that, and I will talk to you soon. Bye. And now I have to, now I have to get back to my other screen and say hey.